The Jurassic Park series requires some suspension of disbelief, but even after you've turned your brain all the way off, there are still some things that just don't add up. The basic science of the Jurassic Park movies gets explained through Dr. Hammond when the main characters first arrive on the island.
How'd you do this? I'll show you.
Simply put, Hammond scientists clone dinosaurs via blood samples from mosquitoes trapped in amber, and then fill in the blanks with modern animal DNA. That's all well and good for a science fiction film explanation, but it doesn't quite explain how they managed to clone plants that have been extinct for millions of years. Ellie Sattler is taken aback by a plant that hasn't existed since the Cretaceous period. It's not like mosquitoes would have drank chlorophyll or anything to get plant DNA inside them, although we suppose there would be other ways for plant material to be preserved. It could be found in fecal matter from herbivores that's been caught in amber and then reconstructed using modern plant DNA. Maybe. But one DNA creation that definitely doesn't make sense is that of the Mosasaurus in Jurassic World. After all, it's not like a mosquito would have gone out to sea to quickly get some Mosasaurus blood during the brief moments when it surfaces above water. There's actually a popular fan theory that none of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park have legitimate dino DNA. Instead, Hammond's team created wholly new mutants based on what people perceive dinosaurs should look like. Dr. Wu even has a line in Jurassic World about how they've always genetically altered the dinosaurs, which explains why they don't have feathers. However, taking the movies at their word that these were made at least partially from real dinosaur DNA does require some leaps in logic. The ending of Jurassic Park sees the remaining humans cornered by a pack of velociraptors. Literally, out of nowhere, a Tyrannosaurus Rex emerges and takes a bite out of one of the raptors, saving the day. It's a perfect showcase of how the T-Rex isn't evil, it's an animal, and at the end of the day, humans are completely at the mercy of nature, which can sometimes be beneficial and sometimes not. The scene works thematically, but it does raise the question, where did this T-Rex come from? The building is still under construction, so there is a chance there was an opening large enough for the T-Rex to fit through. It still doesn't explain how no one is aware of the T-Rex's presence until it literally enters the camera frame to eat a raptor. We've already seen that this T-Rex's stomps are powerful, as evidenced by the iconic water cup scene, where its footsteps cause the water to ripple. But no one, not even the raptors that should be more attuned to big sounds, sees it coming. It's even more ridiculous when you realize Dr. Grant and the others are looking right where the T-Rex would be and don't react until it makes its move on the raptors. We get that it was a cinematic choice and that Spielberg was just playing with off-screen space, but it just makes you scratch your head when you really think about it. The Lost World brings the dinosaurs to the mainland for the first time. A T-Rex is put on a ship and transported to San Diego, where it promptly gets loose and runs amok. But there's a problem with how the T-Rex gets there in the first place. Specifically, all of the humans aboard the SS Venture are dead by the time the ship reaches California, but the T-Rex is still in its holding cell. So, what exactly happened to the crew?
Oh my God. Where's the crew? All over the place.
There's some speculation online that an original version of this sequence involved velociraptors stowing aboard the ship and killing everyone, but that it got scrapped. From what we can tell, there's no hard evidence to suggest that this was the case, so the only explanation that remains is that the T-Rex killed everyone. The dinosaur was sedated beforehand, which means it would have needed to wake up, eat everyone on the ship, and then wind up back in the cargo hold. The only explanation, and the one we're meant to believe, is that the T-Rex wreaked havoc on the ship before it reached shore, but that sequence of events feels pretty unlikely. Once again, this feels to be a case of director Steven Spielberg wanting to create a cool, suspenseful set piece with a dead ship crew serving as an ominous warning of what's about to happen next. The problem is that thinking about it for 5 seconds makes the whole thing fall apart logistically. The Jurassic Park franchise has had some incredibly brutal deaths throughout its history. Even people who are trained fighters and mercenaries aren't a match for dinosaurs. Despite this, beyond all logic and reason, 12-year-old Eric Kirby manages to survive on a dino-infested island for 8 weeks all on his own until his parents and Dr. Grant come to save him. This is probably meant to speak to Eric's ingenuity, but it defies everything we know about the franchise so far. He's been holed up in a supply truck with food all this time, but he still had to reach the truck in the first place, which feels like it would have been a massive undertaking for a kid. After 8 weeks, the T-Rex or Spinosaurus should have smelled him from inside the truck and ripped it apart trying to get to him. The only explanation is that he's unbelievably lucky. There's also the matter of him having a container of T-Rex urine. When Grant asks him how he got it, Eric responds,
"You don't want to know."
That vial is pure urine. It's not like Eric would have dug it out of dirt or something. Plus, he knows that it repels smaller dinosaurs but attracts the Spinosaurus. If he learned that firsthand, he would have needed to escape from one of those, and that really seems like a long shot. A child's death may be a step too far for the Jurassic Park franchise, but under any normal circumstances, Eric should have died almost immediately upon getting trapped on the island. Speaking of the Spinosaurus, this dino definitely has some inconsistencies. Several scenes are dedicated to showing just how vicious this creature is, like when Grant and Eric barely escape from it in an enclosure. Even when they're on the other side, they're not safe because the Spinosaurus plows through an enforced fence and chases after them once again. It seems unstoppable until it's stopped in its tracks by a door only seconds later. Granted, it's a heavily reinforced door, but it doesn't seem any tougher than the enclosure the Spinosaurus made quick work of. Let's even assume the door is simply impenetrable. What would have stopped the Spinosaurus from ramming through the walls and entering the building that way? It's a classic case of power scaling. The Spinosaurus is all-powerful when it needs to be a serious threat, but when our heroes need a break, its strength decreases significantly. Whoever designed the enclosures on this island really should have just made it entirely of doors, since that seems to be the Spinosaurus' main weakness. The Jurassic Park franchise came roaring back to life with 2015's Jurassic World, which remains the highest-grossing film in the franchise. But the new lease on life also brought with it a host of plot inconsistencies and things that just plain didn't add up, especially as they're related to the Indominus Rex, a mutant hybrid dino. Whereas the T-Rex and Velociraptor are at least based on creatures that actually used to exist, the Indominus Rex was a wholly new creation with some of the best powers in the animal kingdom. It's incredibly intelligent, with the ability to speak with Velociraptors. Plus, it can camouflage with its environment, which all around feels like a bad idea to begin with. Unless you're an eccentric rich dude, of course, then you're pretty stoked.
Is that good?
It's fantastic.
The camouflage allows the beast to sneak up on security personnel and wipe them all out, but it's unclear why the scientists at Jurassic World would give it this power in the first place. The whole point of creating this creature was to be a shiny new attraction at the park. If it can basically turn invisible to where no one can see it, then how are guests supposed to see it? Anyone who paid an exorbitant amount of money to visit the park would surely demand a refund if the main attraction decided to hide all the time. There's a running theme throughout the Jurassic Park franchise that just because humanity can do something doesn't mean we should. The scientists, who we assume must be smart people, really should have thought that one through. Come to think of it, Jurassic World feels very poorly designed in several aspects. For instance, take the gyrosphere ride. Each sphere allows two passengers to roam amongst the herbivores. It looks pretty fun, almost like when zoos have a safari ride where people can get up close to zebras. The only problem is that the spheres aren't attached to any kind of track. What's to stop someone in a gyrosphere from ramming into a dinosaur and potentially hurting it? Even beyond that liability, how long is this ride supposed to take? There can only be so many gyrospheres the park has available, with two people going into each one. Theoretically, someone could take a gyrosphere out for a spin and use it for hours, denying other paying guests their chance to go on the experience. There obviously isn't even a recall function, as Zach and Gray receive a message for all gyrospheres to return to the station, but they just keep going further and further into the attraction. The idea of a gyrosphere you're in total control over does seem fun, and it creates a more thrilling set piece when the Indominus Rex goes on the loose later, but it makes zero logistical sense as a ride. We've already gone over a couple of aspects of the completed Jurassic World theme park that don't make any sense, and honestly, neither of those hold a candle to the biggest head-scratcher of all. Why, for the love of all that's good, would you build a theme park on the same island as an active volcano? Seriously? Though it's clarified in the original novel that it's an extinct volcano, this doesn't come up in any of the previous films. A generous interpretation of this plot point is that building a theme park on an island with a volcano is yet another way John Hammond spared an expense, which would certainly track. Perhaps Hammond thought the volcano had been dormant for so long that it was a non-issue to build here. If there's one expense Hammond shouldn't have skimped on, it was hiring a geologist to be absolutely certain the volcano wouldn't go off anytime soon. If it hasn't already been made clear by this point, we'll say it plainly. It's a good idea to take any science in the Jurassic Park movies with a hefty grain of salt. These are science fiction tales, yes, but there are some key details that just don't make sense. One of these is the real-life drug that plays a part in the plot of Fallen Kingdom. The mercenaries use tranquilizers containing carfentanil to subdue the dinosaurs. This is an incredibly strong, real-life drug. In fact, it's 100 times more potent than fentanyl. Even a tiny dose can be fatal to humans, which means Owen Grady should would absolutely be dead. When Owen and the mercenaries locate Blue, they fire on Blue to make the raptor sleepy. They then turn their guns on Owen and shoot him with the same tranquilizers containing carfentanil. Zia does pull the dart out before giving its full dose, but that's almost irrelevant. Again, even a small amount should be fatal to a human being. They could have simply been vague with what the tranquilizers contain, but name-dropping this real substance was a bad move in terms of lending credibility to the scene. In Jurassic World, Owen is established as a raptor trainer. He's managed to somewhat tame a group of raptors, notably Blue. His calling card with this is extending his arm straight in front of his body while keeping his palm open. This seems to work to get the raptors under his command when they get a bit unruly or try to eat a kid.
Stand down. Hey! What did I just say?
This comes up again throughout the franchise anytime Owen wants to keep Blue in check, which makes sense since Blue was used to it. But in Dominion, Owen begins doing the hand trick to every dinosaur he comes across, and strangely enough, it works. It's just one of the many things that doesn't make sense about Dominion. At the beginning of the film, Owen encounters a wild Parasaurolophus. All Owen has to do is get the rope around its neck and extend his hand, and the dinosaur becomes much calmer. But this doesn't make any sense. It's like teaching your own dog a trick and then expecting some random dog you find on the street to obey. The latter wouldn't have the same training, so why is this dinosaur listening to Owen? He's not Crocodile Dundee. He does the same thing during the dino market sequence, and honestly, it might just be muscle memory for him. If it works out, then that's great, but if the dinosaurs remain wild, he moves on to plan B, which is to just run away. Fallen Kingdom introduces Maisie. The story implies Lockwood created her after his daughter's death as a way to still have a piece of her, and this human cloning is what caused his falling out with Hammond. However, Dominion completely retcons her origins and makes her an even more convoluted figure in this series. In Dominion, it's explained that Maisie's mother, Dr. Charlotte Lockwood, gave birth to her own clone, Maisie.
Is that me?
Yeah.
She was then able to go into Maisie's DNA to take out the fatal disease that would wind up killing her so that Maisie wouldn't suffer the same fate. Maybe Lockwood didn't want Maisie to know that she was, in fact, raised by her mother for a little bit, but what purpose would lying serve? It just feels like the franchise couldn't really figure out what to do with her and altered her origin when it wanted something different. In addition to the characters in this franchise never learning not to mess with dinosaurs, the franchise itself never seems to learn from its own plot holes. As we previously mentioned, back in the original Jurassic Park, the T-Rex appeared out of nowhere at the very end, and giant dinosaurs still managed to get the jump on characters. In Jurassic World Rebirth, Teresa Delgado sees a T-Rex. Her view of it briefly becomes obstructed from an inflating raft, but in a matter of seconds, the T-Rex instantly disappears. It turns out it just walked into the nearby river without anyone noticing. Just like in Jurassic Park, this is done to create the most amount of tension because this giant beast suddenly disappeared. However, a dinosaur of that size shouldn't surprise anyone, and it's unlikely it could have walked quietly into the river without Teresa hearing or feeling it. Something similar happens during the film's climax with the mutated Distortus Rex.
Come on, ride!
This is also a huge creature that's nonetheless walking around the abandoned laboratory without anyone hearing it until it's too late. As we mentioned before, we totally get it from a filmmaking standpoint. It's hard to pull off jump scares or adjacent feats of surprise without taking at least a few liberties, but still. The simple fact is that we're all very well aware of the scale of these dinosaurs. One of the most famous scenes in the first Jurassic Park is when the T-Rex's stomps cause a cup's water to ripple. These things easily weigh several tons. They shouldn't be able to sneak up on anyone, yet time and time again, it's almost like they teleport to wherever would be the scariest place for them to be. Or they have straight-up ninja skills. Either way, it doesn't make sense when you take a second to think about it. The D-Rex and Mutodons aren't the only creatures waiting for the characters at the lab. Isabella, the youngest member of the Delgado family, also encounters her new buddy Dolores there. She's an Aqualops who loves candy, and she was last seen going back into the jungle when Isabella told her to run so that her family could get on the raft to escape the T-Rex. The family makes their way to the lab where they meet back up with Zora and her team to wait for the helicopter to extract them, but the lab's mini-mart has another surprise visitor, Dolores. Dolores is tiny. It would probably take her a while to get all the way to the lab, even if she went there for snacks rather than to be reunited with Isabella. But how did she get there at roughly the same time? The Delgado family had the advantage of taking a raft all the way down the river even after the T-Rex attack. Dolores would have needed to walk. Simple as that. It's possible the pint-sized dino knows a shortcut, especially since she seems to know that that area has food, but even so, there's another reason why Dolores should have stayed far away. The lab also seems to be where the Mutodons and D-Rex hang around. Dr. Loomis even mentions how the area draws such creatures at night, so it wouldn't make sense for Dolores to go somewhere deadly predators would lurk. Don't get us wrong, we're happy Dolores came back because she's so adorable, but there's no logical reason for her to have gotten there.